Welcome back. This time we're talking about the season premiere of Legion, the new X-Men live-action TV series on FX. And I know I'm pretty late to the party on this since 2 episodes have already aired, but I didn't actually have time to watch those 2 episodes until this past weekend, and as soon as I watched them, I knew this was going to be a show that I was going to want to talk about and definitely want to keep watching. And since it would annoy the daylights out of me if I started reviewing on episode 3, I want to jump back and start with the season premiere, Chapter 1. Now, since I've already seen the first 2 episodes, I'm going to try to keep this review for this season premiere spoiler free. So if you haven't actually seen the episode yet, feel safe in continuing to watch. Now, the other thing I want to point out right off the bat is the fact that I am not going to be coming at this series as an X-Men expert. I don't know all of the minor characters that might be showing up from the comics. Now, I have read a decent bit of X-Men comics, albeit it's been at least 10 years since I've regularly read any of the series. But through the first 2 episodes, that hasn't helped me recognize anyone in this series, and I'm honestly not going to be looking for it. I'm going to approach this as an X-Men show. I'm a fan of the X-Men. I've watched all the movies, the good ones and the bad ones. And I'm going to approach this show as what it appears to be at this point, a somewhat highbrow, serious take on the X-Men mythos and through a very particular character. And that's exactly what we get in this pilot episode. When we meet David Haller, played by Dan Stevens. He is someone who apparently has some kind of telepathic and potentially telekinesis powers. Unfortunately, everyone around him sees the issues that are resulting from that as these symptoms of paranoid schizophrenia, which has led him to face a series of psychiatrists, medications, and now finally he has been institutionalized. And that's sort of the core theme of this first episode, which is what would happen if someone with those kind of powers was believed to be insane. And the result is honestly one of the best episodes of any series I've seen this season so far. It's just such a trippy presentation. I'm honestly not entirely sure what time period this is set in based on the costumes. I'm thinking 70s, maybe early 80s. There's some wonderful camera work. There's 2 particular long tracking shots that I'm not going to spoil that's in this episode that are just downright phenomenal and some of the best camera work I've seen all season. And they layer the story through a variety of flashbacks, hallucinations, dreams, interviews. And it's really not until you get to the end of this oversized 90-minute episode where you sort of finally get grounded in where you can feel mostly sure which layer of the story is sort of the present and sort of the foundation from which we can kind of jump back and put everything else into some semblance of order, that things start to make more sense. But from the episode's opening moments, we know we're going to be getting something different. It's a series of scenes from David's life, from a child, baby on forward. It's all done in a very slow motion style, very reminiscent of the opening credits to The Watchmen, building all the way up to when David is now in this institution. And it's there where we meet some of the episode's other main characters, including David's friend Lenny, played by Aubrey Plaza, as well as a relative newcomer, Sid, played by Rachel Keller, who David starts having feelings for. And basically, for the vast majority of this episode, we really don't know any more than David does what scenes are real, what are hallucinations, what are dreams, and it all, again, just sort of flows on so many different levels. They really do balance the various, sort of narratives, so that when we do sort of get that grounding at the end, we can look back and it does make sense. It's not just randomness. It's not craziness just for the sake of craziness. Except for possibly there is one scene that's just so random and so just perfectly just encapsulates what this episode is trying to accomplish. So that is the best I can do from a spoiler-free perspective to talk about this first episode. There really isn't a whole lot of X-Men stuff. In fact, the word mutant is really only ever used once. So how this is going to develop further in the long term, we're still not sure. But one thing I can say, having seen the second episode, is if you're worried that this first episode is sort of just like they blew everything here and then we're going to get a much more standard narrative moving forward, at least through the second episode, that is not the case. They've found this style of storytelling with a narrator that is very unsure of his own reality, and they're really using that to its greatest potential. And really, although it's very early, through 2 episodes, we never know if a show can really maintain quality after an excellent start. But this show really has the potential to be my favorite new show of the season, which I really didn't think was going to happen after The Good Place had such an excellent first season. So if you've seen this first episode, what did you think about it? Try to keep spoiler free if possible for those who have not seen it. We'll hopefully have a review of episode 2 up shortly, and we can talk more in detail and more spoiler stuff at that point. But overall, what did you think of the style, the aesthetic, their way of sort of showcasing David's mental instability? Like I said, personally, I loved it. I loved everything about this episode. It was just honestly 90 minutes of some of the best television I've seen this year, and frankly, for quite a while. As always, you can subscribe to my channel, check out some other reviews, and until next time, keep your eyes unfocused.